Hey everyone, Paul ISM, and am I glad this is probably one of the last times I have to say this mouthful. Welcome to part 17, the final part of the Model Factory Hero Lancia Delta Integrale HF Turbo Evolution 92 video build. So yes, we're back at the final part. 6 months of work coming together over a couple of days on getting the grill together. Loads of little snagging bits that need doing at the end of the build that we've either put off for ages or just couldn't get due till now. And what you would look like a couple of hours work turns into a day. The grill alone on this took me an entire day to do, probably about 5 hours in total just to do the grill. And that's the beauty of these kits, and that's where they're worth their money. They are such an involved build. They are great fun and very satisfying to do. So, like I say, let's jump in with the build and we'll come back at the end for a little bit of a chat. Right then, so the final part of the build. So I've already been through the instructions. I have highlighted in blue everything that needs doing. Lots of little snag bits that need attention. Some have already built and painted, some that are going to need dealing with in this stage as well. And this is what we're going to start with first, the grill. Now this innocuous grill looks like, oh, it'll take me a few hours. This took me an entire day to clean up, prime, paint and install. Yes, a lot of work. So we're starting off all the white metal parts. Obviously these have all been through the magnetic tumbler with the rest of the parts at the beginning of the build. Got a Tamiya basic file and I'm going around and de-seaming all the white metal. Standard practice for the white metal. Get all the deformities off, all the seams, any burrs and clean it up. And then I go over it with the 400 UMP thinny stick and the 220 UMP sponge and bring it back to a nice shiny metal. It's as simple as that. We'll do that to all the parts involved. There's not that many of them left to clean up. Also, don't forget to get your file on the inside of the part as well. Anything that will be visible, make sure it's fully cleaned up. And of course, if there's any holes to drill, drill them out now, because as I've figured out for a future build, go through, double and triple check that you've drilled all holes for everything needed, because I've missed out loads on the build. I've had to drill out now, and it's not the best time to do it. So with those drilled out, a quick test fit in the main piece of the grill, a little bit of online reference, looking at how the grill goes together and how it should be. There's several components here. So we've got the main back part of the grill, we've got the front part of the grill, which we just dealt with there. We've got several PE pieces that make up the actual grill section itself. There's these bits here that make up the red insert to go in between the grill and the actual PE grill slats themselves. We've got the headlights around, a headlight grill to go behind there as well. The headlight buckets, I suppose they are, the chrome buckets, the bulbs, and the headlight lenses themselves. There's lots of parts to these. So we go through, cut them all off the fret with our Zilron PE shears. And then I like to go through and trim them as close as possible to the PE part. And then we got our Tamiya diamond file and get rid of all the fret attachment points. Doesn't take a lot at all to do. Cleans it up really well. I've had this tool for years and would highly recommend it. And then a test fit. So we're test fitting everything that needs to go in. You may find you need to sand the PE a little bit more. You don't want this to be tight. You want it to all fit in perfectly. So some of the PE parts are being a bit tight. Give them a little bit of a file. Reduce the outside diameter. And then assemble it as per the instructions. So we're dry testing it first to make sure it all goes together, as you can see. And then we'll take it out as one unit, and then we'll go from back to front and glue it together. It's pretty simple. There's one back piece. The four front are all the same. So it's pretty simple to do. So we'll start with a little dab of glue on the back. Make sure you get everything the right way round. Using Bob Smith's, I've got a nice fresh tub of it now. So the old stuff, the lid cracked and it went off. Bit of a pain, but hey, it happens. I've got a year out the glue, which is quite unusual out super glue, so I'm happy with that. And then we're going to apply each one of these as we go. So there's 4 of these on each side. Just checking that they're not handed. They're not. So we can pop them in place like so. The Bob Smiths gives us a little bit of time to work with. If you get any excess CA glue, don't worry about it. We can get it off in a minute. But just concentrate on getting it all lined up and straight, because we need it to all line up to get it fitted into the parts. If you get any excess CA glue, grab some acetone or nail varnish remover. I use pure acetone on a cotton bud and just gently wipe over, and it will remove the excess CA glue. So again, you can get this off, should it be an issue, but obviously try and be as neat as you possibly can, because the less cleanup we got, the quicker the build will go. And with all 4 parts together, I have a little bit of test fit, a little bit tight as a unit. So I'm just going around and filing the very edges, just to reduce the outside diameter a touch. Like I said, the Tamiya diamond file, well worth the money in my opinion. If you're working with photo etch, well worth the money. And then that fits straight in. There we go, a little bit of a test fit. How's it look from the front? Looks absolutely spot on from the front. So I took it off camera, gave it a little squirt with some CA kicker, and there we go, wiped it off. There's one grill. We'll do the same with the other one. And then with the attachment points for the headlight surrounds, we're going to drill out the holes for the rivets. And then the actual headlight surrounds themselves, we're going to use our small shop tools photo etch bender to bend the 90-degree angle on the bottom of the headlight surround. Nice and simple, nice and easy. Again, another tool well worth investing in. You can get PE pliers. They sometimes don't get the full 90 degree like this. So again, investment in tools is worth doing. If you're going to use a lot of PE, I would highly recommend investing in one. And a quick test fit to see which goes where, making sure the holes line up, etc, etc. As I've said all along through this build, test fit everything repeatedly on this. Look for a point on the PE where you can glue it. It's not going to show through. You don't need a huge amount of PE to glue these parts together. They're not a structural part. They're not going to be moving. You've literally got to get it glued in place and painted. But most importantly, make sure you get everything orientated the correct way. You can see me being a little bit confused now. Like, hang on. Which way does this go? So it goes that way. Is it the other one? That one goes there. Don't be afraid to double check. You've got loads of time with the Bob Smiths glue. It doesn't set instantly. Unless it sticks to your fingers, then it does set instantly. But confirm you get everything in the right place, and make sure your lines are aligned as well for the rivets later on. Headlights are clear resin, so it's a bit sketchy doing this, but you can use sprue cutters to cut them off. I use my old Zorons, and using a selection of UMP thinny sticks and sponges, we're going to clean up the excess resin until we've got a nice round headlight cover ready to go. So fairly simple. We've got a little resin bulb to go in, so that's already been test fitted, a little dab of the Bob Smiths in there and then pushed in place like so. And then with a little few, well, 3 dabs around the headlight lens of the Bob Smiths glue, we can get the lens in. Now the great thing about the Bob Smiths is it doesn't dry to a haze. It does dry, you can see it, but if there's some clear parts and it's like that, you're not going to notice it. No PE window wipers with this one, thankfully. We have white metal, so they've all been cleaned up as the other parts are. And then we're just going to glue them together for painting. So there you go, there's one. And there's the other one. And then we'll mount them ready for paint. I have to say, the white metal ones are so much easier than the PE ones. I think all kits should come with them. Fun fact, I broke my one remaining 0.5mm drill bit the other day on a part of this kit after saying I'd never broken a drill bit. So now I'm left to using these PC board drill bits, which I hate. It's this managed to drill that one and then snapped on another hole. So fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. On another note, Hugh Gordon sent me those. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. They do have their uses, especially for hand drilling. Because they've got the little surround on them, they are very useful for drilling things out by hand. But in a pin vise, you've got to be very, very careful. All the parts are in the booth now, and we're going to prime with the etch primer from Upol. A couple of coats of this on all the parts. I'm not going to go in depth on this. You've seen this done so many times. We're through the 0.2mm apex. It's out the aerosol. It's not thinned at all for the white metal. And we're at about 18-20 psi. Like I say, a couple of coats of this. It lays down a nice thick uniform layer of primer, and it chemically etches itself into the metal. And on the PE, Simon Shorey recommended doing this, and I followed suit. Thin a little bit of the etch primer with some leveling thinner, about 50-50. And then you can spray it on the PE nice and thin, doesn't cover any of the holes or the gaps, and gives a much more resilient primer to the PE too. Wing mirrors, these were painted black the other day, and we've got some carbon trim to go on. Now, I did hope to do it in one piece, but this crease was being an absolute nightmare at the top, so I could see the bottom and the side would go on. So I opted to get my scalpel with a nice new blade and just follow that edge nice and carefully. Cut it nice and straight. We'll take that off, put it back on the moist backing paper for now. Get the rest of the decal set in place, and then we'll pop this back on in a bit when we got everything sorted. It just makes life so much easier. You won't see the seam at all because it's going to be clear coated. Sadly, keeping everything on these clips is a bit of a pain. They are awkward, heavy parts, but with some UMP decal solutions and perseverance, we get all the decals in place, and then we come back in with this last piece, roughly lining up where we cut it, and then standard decal procedure, put that down. Like I say, you'll never see the join, you really won't, and there's the crease gone. So it's much easier sometimes to cut the decal if required. You could also scan decals, print them out, use the print as a focal point to see where you need to cut decals. I like to wing it though, I'm a bit of a rebel without a clue. Back in the booth, we've got some Mr. Servicer 1500 black. And we're going to put a couple of coats of black primer down. Now, I'm going to paint everything LP5 on the grill, bar the P grill centers. We're going to leave those in Mr. Servicer. Just get a bit of tonal variation on it. Like I say, the rest of it's going to go Mr. Servicer 1500 black. And then when this is dry, we'll go for LP5. I could have gone for LP5 straight away, but it was out anyway for the grills, the Mr. Servicer, so I thought we'll just do it. And this is through the iWater HPC Plus. We're about 18 psi again, and it's thinned about 60% from Stobby leveling thinner. Good primer, very reliable. Not too keen on it just on PE. I find it does chip off rather easily. And on the number plate and the front grill surrounds, we've got some Tamiya white primer over the etch primer. We're going to leave those plates in that colour. And then obviously the number plate surrounds will go red to match the picture we were looking at on my phone earlier. So that's all left to dry for a few hours. And we're back probably about 3 hours later. We've got some GX red. I cannot see the colour number, so whichever the GX red is, I can't remember if it's like GX4 or something. It's thinned with some Mr. Hobby leveling thinner, about 50%. It's a great colour, highly pigmented, very vibrant. Perfect colour for painting this red. So we've done the emergency electrical cut-off switch for the front of the car, and we're going to do the grille as well. So a couple of light coats. So we'll put a coat on here, let it dry for 5-10 minutes, and come back with another coat on, and that will get us beautiful coverage of that paint. And like I say, on all the other parts, we've gone for Tamiya LP5. So all the window wipers, the main grille, back in, all the PE parts will do in that, bar the actual grill itself, which we're going to leave in Mr. Surfacer. And the very front part of the grill we're going to do in Tamiya Sparkling Silver as a nice silver effect, because the real grill has a chrome grill. And yeah, that's what we're going to do. So a couple of coats of each one, and it's job done. Now, referring to drill holes, these should have been drilled out way back before this car was even painted, but no, I didn't do it. So we're here now drilling out these holes now. So we've got window wiper washer jets to put in for the washer fluid, I suppose it would be. We've got the window wipers themselves, and we've got the emergency cut-off for the electrical system. You'll also notice I put the bonnet catches on off camera as well. You saw me do the rear ones on the boot latch a while back, so I didn't need to do them again. There's the washer jets in, held in with some Bob Smith's glue. Same for the cut-off switch as well, in place, like so. And then we need to drill out these clips for holding the screen in. Again, we did these on the back windows. And again, these should have been drilled out too. Drilling out the holes for the door handlers. Thankfully, they don't have to go all the way through. And then with a steady hand, we get some Bob Smiths. Add a dab of glue. Yabba dabba do. Just in there and on the very edge. And then we painted these many moons ago. They can be popped in place, hold for a second. And we've got a little PE part to go in the middle, which we'll sort out later on. So yeah, well worth looking through the instructions and ensuring all the holes are drilled, especially at an early stage. I need to get multiple highlight markers to mark these things, different colours, because yes, it's a bit of a pain missing them and drilling them down. The blades on the wipers, I'm doing in a Sharpie. It's always a good colour, I think, to simulate like a brighter black. So that's what we've done there. And then we've got the bonnet stay as well, which again should have been drilled ages ago. And we didn't. And that's installed. And if you notice the bonnet as well, we've also painted the missing white bits underneath as well, where the paint had been pulled off from the 3M pads. That's all been touched up now too. And there's our bonnet stay put in with a rivet. And now our grills. So as you can see, with the front bit's been painted sparkling silver from Tamiya. We're putting our grills in from the back. It's a little dab of glue in the front, just in the corners to hold it in. So we get both of those in place. Very gentle putting them in, which is why we said about making sure they fit in with no resistance, because you don't want to chip the paint. And then getting our surrounds in around the edge. It's a little bit tricky, but it's a case of just gently picking it up, putting it roughly in one side. And I'm going to use the soft end of a cocktail stick just to push it in around the edge. It's a little tiny dab of glue on the back of it. Be very, very gentle. There is a decal for this as well, so you could put this in and then decal over it, but I opted to paint it. And I'm glad I did, because it looks a lot more impressive painted red. A couple of dabs of glue on the front. There is a Lancia decal to go on the bonnet, the grill as well. We'll do that later on. And there we go. There's the grill in place. Hold it for a few seconds. The Bob Smith does take a little bit longer to go off. So make sure you give it a little bit of purchase and a little bit of pressure until it does. And obviously be careful of your fingers. You don't want to get glue on it and then handle the parts. And then our headlights that we built up earlier. Now these are handed. If you look at the instructions, it'll tell you which one goes where. You can actually see it on the top, bottom right of my picture now. You can see the top piece, the little cutout. It tells you exactly where they go. So look at them, make sure you get the right ones and they're orientated correctly. Basically, the inner one has vertical lines that face up and down. And this one here has like a star pattern that's sitting there symmetrically. It's quite easy to see and do. I have a couple of dabs of glue behind them. They fit in absolutely perfect. And with the headlight surrounds over the top, we can get some rivets in there. Again, you need a nice steady hand. A little dab of glue on each of the rivets. And there we go. There's both sides done. And our grill assembled. Now this grill was a bit of a nightmare to fit. It is tight getting in here. So I ended up just easing it in gently, because obviously if you give it too much pressure, because it's white metal, it bends. So it's a case of just giving enough pressure till you get it in. I found cutting the pins off the back made it fit in a lot easier. And I just applied a bit of Bob Smiths on the back, closed the bonnet over, and then push the grill in from the front, like so. Hold it for a few seconds, and that was it. But it is very tricky to get in there. And then a quick test fit to make sure our bonnet stays open with our bonnet stay. And it does. Look at that. Perfect. With two grills on the side wings at the back. At the front, rather, sorry. So they're just glued in. They've been painted black. And then into the booth for our freshly decaled mirrors that were done probably the night before, actually. It's not too fresh. And I've got some Tamiya UV cut clear. Not Tamiya, Mr. Hobby Super UV cut clear. And I'm going to rattle can it. It's just the quickest way to do it. I've got these little mirrors to do. And the front piece under the very front bumper that leads onto the protective plate underneath. And it's just quicker to do this. By the time I load the airbrush up, thin the paint. And to be honest, I didn't have much of it decanted. It's just easy to spray can it. It does waste a lot of paint, but it does do a good job. So a couple of tack coats down so you don't eat your decals alive. And then a couple of wet coats at the end. As with 2K, what you get at the end is how it will dry. So you need to get rid of all that orange peel. And you can put quite a lot of this down before it will run. But the tack coats, let it tack off. 5-10 minutes between coats is very important. And there we go, nearly done. A little bit of orange peel on the top. And there we go, job done. That's left overnight. It's the following morning now. And we've already painted up the protective tray to go underneath. This is the colour it calls out for. I don't think it's the right colour personally, but hey, it is what it is. And then we glue it together. Apologies for my coughing. My voice is still wrecked. Absolutely destroyed from COVID and the cold I had. It's still not fully come back yet. And then that's located in its locating points and glued in place. This thing weighs an absolute ton. I had to secure all the bonnet and doors and boot lid shut. And we got our replacement windscreen we got from Lancia Hiro. I destroyed this with some static. Yes. When I cut the last one out, all cut out perfectly, no problem at all. Applied a little bit of super glue to the very edge, as I'm going to do in a minute with white glue. And these things hold static so bad, it spidered it across the screen. Just dragged it out to the screen and ruined it. Cost me £25 for a new one of these. It arrived and had a scratch in the middle. So, not very impressed. But it is what it is. And on a £600 model, is £25 all that much for a very focal point of the build? You will see this windscreen massively on the car. So, I bit the bullet and paid it. It's a bit of a soul destroyer to do. But it is what it is. So we've got the rubber surrounds that we've already cut out before. We did this in a part a while back before we ruined the glass. So I know they're cut to size. So I'm going to pop them on. You can see I've got nitrile gloves on to keep any fingerprints off the glass. That way we don't need to keep cleaning it up. Okay, so getting them in place, the pair of them, line them all up. I do the ribbed piece at the back. Whether that's right, I don't know, but I prefer the look of it at the back. And then a little tiny dab of glue and glaze. This has been on the bench for a good 15 minutes. It's really tacked up. We can pop that on. It's nothing really other than to glue it in place finally. So as long as we can keep it in and then glue it to the car, this is not that important. It just needs the tiniest bit. We'll do that on both pieces. And then with our anti-static brush, get as much dust off as we can. But I was literally putting this down and I could see all the dust just being attracted to it. Most important, a quick test fit. To make sure it fits in. And it does. So then some careful application of some Bob Smiths. Did contemplate using the double-sided tape like we did on the Aston build, but thought no, we'll go with a more permanent option. And we'll just apply some strategic points of Bob Smiths. You see, being very cagey how much I put on. We don't need a lot at all. There we go. And then very, very cagily, is that right? I think it is. We'll put the windscreen in. So absolutely been dreading doing this for the second time. After ruining it the first time, I've been absolutely dreading this moment. I've got to say though, how good does the car look? I know it's my own build. I know it's blowing my own horn. It just looks spectacular. It's such an iconic car in an iconic scheme. Not only for Group A rallying, but also for video game. And this to me is Sega Rally. It's a Sega Rally car. I loved and still do love that arcade game. Every arcade I ever went to, whether it be Grille, Liverpool, Southport, wherever I used to hang out as a youngster and teenager and younger chap, I'd always make a beeline for that arcade machine and I'd always drive this car. So for me, this is the ultimate rally car, or one of them, especially the Group A's. And as a gamer, massive memories of this. And it's just a beautiful scheme. It's a martini scheme of an iconic wide arch car. It really is. Anyway, enough nostalgia. We've got the plates in the side of the screen there. They're held in by rivets. We've got the window wipers there. Just got a little bit of glue in just to hold them in place. So there's one. And there's the other. Get them positioned perfect. The vac form screen is lovely. It has the proper curve in it. And it just looks absolutely fantastic. It really does. And then the roof scoop air vent in place as well. little dab of glue at the back, that way we can move it around and line it all up. There we go. And the martini decal for the screen as well. A little bit tricky to get on this. You could do it with it off the car as well, but I think it's easier to do it with it on the car personally. So line it up and then get all the moisture out. Standard decal procedure. I don't use any decal solutions on these whatsoever because I've found sometimes they can mark the plastic. So we just wipe it off with a cloth, get it all nice and clean. And then our number plates, we're going to do all of our plates, and there's the door placard as well for the driver's door, passenger door, sorry. And the rally stickers for the side windows as well for the back. So, like I said, don't use any decal solutions, no heat, nothing. Just let the decal stick on by itself. You'll get a load of the adhesive squeeze out the side and remove all the moisture. So make sure you remove it while you can, and if it doesn't, just wet it and it will come straight off. And then there's the rear Monte Carlo decal in place too. There we are. And the iconic rear spoiler, which for me makes this car what it is. For me, it's a signature piece of this car. I love that roof spoiler, it looks great. So we've got some Bob Smiths on it. Line up, the pin is snapped off this side so we can move it round. And I'm just straightening it up. There we go. And then our roof antenna. Sorry, aerial. No, antenna. It is an antenna because it's the CB, it transmits and receives. We've got the roof mounted antenna with a little bit of the nickel wire cut to length. So it's a nice turn part. And then our nice dried wing mirrors. They're getting their PE glass put in. Nice and carefully. I also say that stand is well worth the money for working on these cars. It's cheap. It was less than £20. It's linked in my Amazon store down below. Very, very, very sturdy, and I would highly recommend getting one if you're working on big scale cars like these. This thing must weigh 4 kilos, so it is well worth having. Yep. And there we go. There's the mirror glued in place. Nice and careful. I hate these latter stages of a build, just in case anything falls off, leaves a glue mark, damages something. You have to be so careful. This is a 6-month build coming to an end here, and it really is stressful. We've got the placard to go on the passenger door. So using double-sided tape here. There we go. It's popped in place. Making sure the door still shuts perfectly as well, which it does. And then onto the tailgate itself as well. There we go, there's both of those in place. And then the turbo fans for the wheels. Somebody had asked me today what these were about. I got it wrong. They said they were to blow cool air. They're not. They were to actually suck warm air away from the braking system. They look a bit mental. I'll be honest, the car does look better without them. I think it does aesthetically take away from the look of the car a little bit, but they are so synonymous and iconic on this car that I think they just have to be on there. I think there's no way around it. They have to be on the car. So they had to be glued on. They really did. A little bit of a pig to glue in place. They were built many moons ago and decaled up on all the older parts. And we've got a little bit of PVA glue. Again, it's gone nice and tacky to pop the door handles in place on the door handles themselves. All 4 of those are in place. And that's it. I think we're done. All we're going to do now is give it a final polish. We've got some UMP spray wax. And we are very carefully going to go all around the model and give it a good polish up. So basically you wipe this on, let it haze up, wipe it off, and it leaves a nice residue behind. Sorry, no residue. You remove the residue and it leaves a nice wax surface behind. Obviously we need to be careful of any things like those bonnet pins, that emergency push button, any bits that have been glued on, because it's easy to knock them off. So just take your time, go around the model and work away at it until you've got it covered. let it haze, get a fresh piece of cloth and wipe it off to a nice high shine. So take your time here, well worth doing, and I just got to say this thing looks absolutely spectacular. Like I say, it's 6 months 6 months, 17 parts of a very in-depth build. Be under no illusion if you take one of these kits on, it's not an easy build at all. And I'll stand by all day what I've said all along. What you pay for in the box is not physically worth the money, but the enjoyment and the journey of this build is. It's an immense journey as a modeler, a car modeler, and avid, I love these cars, Lancias. It's the epitome of rallying for me. I'm a massive Audi fan. I love the Audi Quattro. It is one of my favourite cars, but when I think of rallying, it's this car for me. It's in a Martini livery. It's a wide arch Evolution Lancia Delta. It's just phenomenal. It really is, and it just looks absolutely amazing. It's far from perfect. There are a few mistakes on it, a few things I'd like to rectify, and I can't because it would wreck the build. But I am so happy with this build, and it's going to take pride of place in my display case for sure. We're just going around wiping off all the dried spray wax now and buffering up to a nice high shine. And it's come out well. It really has come out well. I'm very, very happy with the build, and I have enjoyed this build so much along the way. We got stalled for a bit along the way for about 6 weeks when we were waiting for that roll cage replacement parts. But after that, we got back into it, and I'm glad I spaced it out. I'm glad I made a journey of it rather than rushing through it and doing it really quick. And I can't wait to get to the Ferrari GTO after New Year. I'm really looking forward to that build. And there we go. So that's it. There she is. She's done. I've got her on my turntable right now. The turntable's really struggling with this thing on it. It was doing this under duress, but it just looks great. It just looks absolutely fantastic. There are things that change on it. There's things I wish I'd done better. There's a few parts that don't quite fit right. That bonnet just sits proud at the back a little bit. It's hitting the suspension turrets, and I can't do anything about it. And this front left wheel now you're about to see is a little bit higher than the other side. And again, I can't really lower it without destroying things. So I've just taken it on the chin and thought it is what it is. It still sits right. It still looks fantastic. And I'm very, very happy with the build. It looks great. And yeah, photographing this is going to be a bit of a pain. I'm going to have to take it outdoors, which means I've got to walk of it from my cave through my kitchen across gravel and onto a slippery, wet decking. So here we go. I've braved it outside, and here we are. They're taking with the phone the pictures, just because it'd be the best choice out here. And here she is, and she looks great. So I've got to remember everything I've done, so I've got my cheat sheet of my build. So all the resin was primed in Tamiya. I think it was grey primer, then white primer. All the white metal parts were cleaned with the magnetic tumbler, thanks to PK for that. Cheers, buddy. I then primed all the white metal parts with U-Pol Acid Etch grey primer, hence the grey primer on the white, so the white's matched on all the different parts. Body colour was Lancia Bianco, I think it's 210, which I got from Paint Nuts, colour matched. That was thinned about 70% with Mr. Hobby Leveling Thinner. Sprayed through the airbrush, went through absolutely fantastic. The kit decals went down absolutely fantastically, really, really well. No complaints about the Manufacturer Hero decals, they were perfect. Gravity 2K clear coat, one of the mistakes I wish I'd done was painting stages. I used the same clear coat over the space of an hour and a half, and I can see where some of the 2K is degraded, and it's not the best. We polished most of it out, but there are still some areas I'm not totally happy with. But it is what it is. Interior looks fantastic. I love the interior on this. The 2K was flatted as we worked on piece by piece by 3M Trizec 3000, 6000, 8000 pads. Polished up with the Ultimate Polish system. The engine bay looks great as well. I've used various metal paints from Tamiya, Mr. Hobby, the TS and LP range, the Super Metallic range, all the way through it. 90% of what included with the kit is what is shown. The only thing I've added is some Tamiya hoses, some different decal sheet for carbon, and that's about it. Everything else comes with the kit. So it is a very well equipped kit. And obviously we added those lovely 3D printed headsets that Luke Ward did for me inside. And again, they had another dimension to the interior. And I've got some helmets to do in the Martini scheme as well, which I didn't feel like rushing doing now. So we'll add them at a later date. And I'll get a picture of it with those on the car later on down the line. But just what a great journey. What a really enjoyable build of a car I'm really passionate about. I built the Hasegawa kit before, which is an okay kit. It's set up on gravel suspension with a tarmac stage and wheels and tyres on it. So I thought, why not do the ultimate kit of this car? And this is it. It cost me over £600. It's not a cheap kit at all. If you really want to appreciate what's in this kit, go back and watch the review, which is in the playlist on YouTube, and you'll see exactly what I dealt with building this. And if you've not watched the rest of the videos, please go back and watch the rest of the build, because it was an epic journey of a super detailed kit and such a fun build. And like I say, I've got the 037 in the stash as well in the Martini scheme, and I've got the Ferrari 250 GTO, which will be the next build later on. But just a thoroughly enjoyable build of a truly iconic car. And here it is in its space next to the 112 bikes in my display case, and I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So there we are. That's it. It's finally done. Wow. Where do I start with the kit? So 12 months ago, if you asked me would I build a modified Hiro kit, and a lot of people used to, I'd be like, no chance. I've heard nothing but horror stories about them, being an absolute nightmare to build, way too expensive, and I thought, no, I'm not building one of those. No way, Pedro, as Del Boy used to say. Alan started the ball rolling talking about wanting the Alpha 155. I like the Alpha 155 too, so that kind of got me looking at it. Jamie started to join the Hangouts as he finished his 155 build. Watching that come together, I started to get the itch, and I was like, okay, maybe. Started to look around, found the Integrale, and thought, oh my god, okay. Looked at pictures of it, fell in love with it, sold a whole load of my Lego to fund the purchase, the whole 620 odd pounds, I think it was altogether, and bought the kit. Got the kit, reviewed it, thought, my god, what have I let myself in for? And I have thoroughly enjoyed every step of the way of this build along the last 6 months. It's been 17 parts over 6 months, not too bad at all video built. It's had nothing but positive comments and thoughts of people along the way. There's bound some people out there, naysayers, going, no, he'll never build that, he'll never finish it. And yeah, you might have been right, but you were wrong. So that's it. It's all done, and I'm very happy with the result. Lots of things have changed on it. Lots to take on board for the 250 GTO build. Double check those instructions. Make sure everything's drilled out, because drilling out freshly painted parts or widening holes is not the best. So preparation is key. But I thoroughly enjoyed this build. And as I said through the video, it's an iconic car for me. It truly is. Iconic rally car for both the rallying scene, the gaming scene as well. And yeah, if you're thinking about getting one of these kits, be under no illusion, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of suffering. Why have I done this? They're not an easy build. This is one of the easier ones, I think, personally, looking at them. I think the 250 GTO is going to be a bit more technical to do. If you're thinking about getting one, just think about it carefully. Have a look at videos, have a look at reviews, and see what you're getting yourself in for before you fully commit. But I'm made up with this. I'm glad it's off the bench, don't get me wrong. I'm going to have a break now till New Year, and we'll come back fresh in the New Year to start the 250 GTO. And in the meantime, I'm just going to pick up the normal kits and enjoy myself before Christmas and New Year. And like I said, we'll come back next year with the Ferrari 250 GTO build. So I hope you've enjoyed that build series. If you've stuck all the way through, thank you. Thank you for all the positive comments, for spurring me along, pushing me along with the build, the help Jamie's given me along the way, pestering for questions about his build, and just for all the support and goodwill feeling I've had off people over the build over the last 6 months. It's been pretty interesting. It's been a learning curve, that's for sure. And yeah, looking forward to the next one. So hopefully they'll stick with me for the 250 GTO build. So here's the question for today. If we're 17 parts on this, If you've watched the 250 GTO review, you'll see how complex the engine is alone. It's got individual valves, pistons, cranks in it, and everything. How many videos do you think the build will be on that? I estimated around 20 on this, and I wasn't far off. I think it's going to be more on the 250 GTO. I think it is. And I'm also going to try and make the video shorter, so I think that'll definitely make them longer, but we'll see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let me know what you think of the build and the build series itself. I've put a lot of the videos into playlists now, and I'm going to slowly work through them all, put them all on the playlist so they're easy to find. Just take a bit of time doing it, so give me time doing it. This one's in a playlist ready to go if you're watching on ISM. And of course, if you want to get 2-week early access, you can become a patron down below. Not only can you get 2-week early access, you get access to exclusive video builds, which will always be one for patrons, more than like a plastic or alpha model kit. There's exclusive how-to videos, an exclusive Facebook group, Facebook Messenger chat group, exclusive monthly live stream as well on the first Wednesday of every month. And you keep these videos going. Without your support, I couldn't keep doing this. This is my full-time job, and I appreciate everyone that's been a supporter over the last 18 months, I think it is now. Without you, I couldn't do this. So I owe you all a debt of gratitude. And if you wish to become a supporter, there's links down below. Pick a tier that you find is applicable for yourself. And yeah, and if not, there's a PayPal me and a Buy Me Coffee link if you want to send a one-off donation as well. Links to everything else down there, to ISM, Facebook, YouTube, my other YouTube channel where I stream every day. UMP's on there, the Off Air Hangout group, the group build group, the Live at the Bench group. Personal emails come through to me. My stash is there. My Etsy shop is there. We can buy some of my built models. There's all sorts down there. So there we go. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. Click the bell notifications to get notified of the latest videos. And leave a comment. Love reading all your comments. Let me know your thoughts on the build, whether you enjoyed the series, if you're looking forward to the 250 GTO, and how many parts you think that 250 GTO build will be. There we are. Thanks a lot, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your night. Take care. Bye-bye.